Terrorism is something that is very real and extremely terrifying. Terrifying because the acts associated with it may range from hijacking airplanes to executing human beings with little or no remorse. As Americans, we have all heard numerous stories every year about the victims of terrorism, and some of them stick with us, like those are the events that happened at the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. As a citizen of these United States of America, there is no avoiding terrorism, sadly because it is a part of American history. By learning about terrorism, we will have a better understanding of the current and prevalent threat of the group, Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, better known as ISIS. First, I will share some background info on terrorism, some of its possible causes, and then the threat of ISIS itself. So, what is terrorism? To understand ISIS, we're going to have to better understand terrorism. There are many definitions of terrorism. The U.S. Department of Defense defines it as, and I quote, the calculated use of unlawful violence or the threat of unlawful violence to inculcate fear intended to coerce or to intimidate governments or societies in the pursuit of goals that are generally political, religious, or ideological, end quote. Clearly, terrorist acts consist of singling out individuals, concepts, countries, etc. by using unjust violence to oppose said things. These acts, as mentioned earlier, may range from executions to bombing public places or events such as the annual Boston Marathon. Now that we have an understanding of what terrorism is, we will discuss some of its possible causes. To understand terrorism, we're going to learn an expert opinion on some of its possible causes. As stated by Amy Zalman, a professor with a PhD in Middle Eastern Studies, in The Causes of Terrorism, and I quote, conditions have to do with the people who become terrorists, end quote. Truly, there isn't really a cause for it, but conditions are what provoke it, as noted by Salman. These conditions dictate things like impoverished societies or people with certain psychological traits like narcissistic rage. So now that we know some of its possible causes or otherwise conditions that may provoke it, we can move on to what ISIS is. ISIS originated from the Iraq faction Al-Qaeda in Iraq. As reported by Lee Farhan and Rim Mohammed's, two journalists from ABC News in ISIS Trail of Terror, AQI expanded its power in 2011 due to Syrian conflicts, and so the name ISIS was born in representing its greater regional ambitions according to the U.S. Department. ISIS goals are primarily regional, but what is concerning is that they will retaliate and strike against anyone who doesn't fit into their beliefs or otherwise anyone who tries to deter them. So now that we know what terrorism is, some of its possible causes, and who ISIS is, we can wrap it up. It is imperative that we are more aware of terrorism and that it can affect us. Today, we talked about what terrorism is, what may provoke it, and the threat of ISIS. Although terrorism doesn't seem like it may hit us that often, we should still try to be more aware of it, like I said, and make it less prevalent.